Number 6, The Most Beautiful Man I've Ever Met. From Doctor Who, The Girl Who Waited. Talk about other ways to say I love you. In this episode, when Amy Pond ends up confronting an older version of herself, two very different timelines connect around one particular subject. Rory. And in order to convince the older version of herself to help them, Amy tries to persuade her other self to think about Rory and what her refusal to help means for the man they both love. And as part of that, our Amy ends up launching into this really beautiful speech about meeting people and first impressions and how, as you get to know them over time, their outside comes to represent their inside. And some people who are extremely beautiful end up being dull as a brick, and other people who seem alright but not impressive end up becoming, well, in Rory's case, the most beautiful man she's ever met. And it's their agreement in that, and their love for Rory, that finally reunites them and allows the older timeline of Amy to find the courage to help her younger self. And I just watched the episode, I won't get into the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. Number 5, tracking down the author, The Fault in Our Stars. In this truly heart-wrenching story about two teenagers who meet in the midst of struggling to live their lives with terminal cancer, our main protagonist, Hazel Grace, is obsessed with a particular book written by a reclusive, very pretentious author who she's addressed several letters to and has been unable to reach him. Enter Augustus Waters, who proceeds to track down the man's secretary and go through her to finally get in contact with him for the sake of his friend. So basically, without prompting, he was determined to do what Hazel herself could not do over the course of several different tries. He was aware of how important this was to her, and even though he had little interest in the book and the author himself, he went out of his way to track him down, thus proving his dedication to someone he loves, especially when you know that he is using his own time when he might not have a lot of it left. Number 4, Chidi's note, The Good Place. Yes, I really like The Good Place. And yes, it has a lot to say about relationships, both platonic and romantic. And one of those is the relationship between Chidi Anagonye and Eleanor Shellstrop. Two people who begin their story with completely opposite personalities, yet somehow are able to come together and demonstrate one of the most important aspects of a healthy relationship, helping each other to grow. At first, the most obvious is Eleanor's growth through Chidi's teachings on ethics. But as their story is seemingly nearing its end, and Chidi has had a chance to do a lot of reflecting on his own life, he comes to a point where he realizes that all his life he has been searching for the answer to everything. And soon after realizing this mistake he's been making his whole life, he ends up writing himself a note which he gives to Janet to give back to him at a later date. And when we finally see that note, when he folds up the first part, it says, "There is no answer." And then he folds down the second part, and underneath it says, "But Eleanor is the answer." No. If you know Chidi, you know he's been obsessive and full of anxiety throughout all of their adventures. This note demonstrates his final conclusion that there might not be a definite answer to everything he's ever asked. But the one thing that's clear is that Eleanor will always be there for him. That Eleanor brings the stability and the love and support that he needs. And even though he didn't need to write a note to himself to know that, he considered it some of the best work he's written. And again, if you know Chidi, that says a lot. Number 3. This one's kind of a double-header since it's kind of the same circumstance, but from two different movies. Both starring Drew Barrymore, I'm realizing now. Don't Write Me Off Just Yet from Music and Lyrics, and Grow Old With You from The Wedding Singer. Ironically, both these songs were written for a Drew Barrymore character. But let's focus on Don't Write Me Off Just Yet. Now I want to be clear, for anyone who is musically gifted, writing your partner a song is as cliched and overused as saying I love you. However, in both of these circumstances, the songs mean more on a deeper level. Don't Write Me Off Just Yet is especially more meaningful because one of the main issues in Music and Lyrics is that the character of Alex Fletcher does not know how to write lyrics. He can do the music, but every time he tries to write the words to a song, it ends up falling apart or sounding ridiculous, which is where Drew Barrymore's character Sophie came in. She was the lyricist. But basically, after kind of falling out, Alex ends up on stage performing this beautifully written, meaningful song in order to try to win Sophie back. The song means more because he did something extraordinary. His love for her inspired him to write the kind of lyrics that he has been missing his whole life. And that is why Don't Write Me Off Just Yet is so beautiful. Not because, oh, he wrote her a song, isn't that cute? It's what every single teenage boy who can play a guitar does. No, it's because doing it showed Sophie that she inspired him, that she changed him, and that he was willing to go outside of his comfort zone to show her that he cared. Similarly, Grow Old With You from The Wedding Singer is meaningful because it's playing off of something that Drew Barrymore's character Julia said earlier about how being in love with someone means being able to see yourself growing old with them. And it's this belief that Robbie incorporates into the song, which shows her, one, that he was listening, and two, that he believes it as well. Number 2, As You Wish from The Princess Bride. Yeah, you knew I had to put it on somewhere. I was actually debating whether I wanted to put it on the bottom or on the top, because really, this one's kind of a given. Pretty much everyone born after that movie came out has grown up with it, and some of us have been fortunate enough to read the book as well. So I ended up putting it in the number 2 spot, because again, we all know it's on here. We all know As You Wish is the iconic other version of I Love You. So it's like, at the same time, we all know it, and we all don't need to know it because we know it. Or some kind of logic. Anyway, for the 2 of you who don't know, in The Princess Bride, every time Buttercup asks Wesley for something, he responds with the words, "As you wish." And over time, she comes to understand that "as you wish" is his way of saying "I love you." Of course, this is because, on a more underlying scale, he's basically saying, "I'll do anything you ask of me." His thoughts and his actions are always for her in everything he does. And this is further proven through his fighting through 3 different men to get to her, leading her through a fire swamp, and wrestling with a rodent of unusual size, all for her. And for all of us who know this story, "As You Wish" has become a staple romantic line. And fortunately, it has not become overused by time. Because frankly, those words belong to The Princess Bride, and The Princess Bride only. And coming in at our number 1 spot, Facing the Red Bull, The Last Unicorn. For fans of both the animated movie and the original written work, The Last Unicorn is a beautiful fairy tale that, while it doesn't center on the romance, has a delightful but also tragic romantic twist. As we near the end of her story, our unicorn is turned into a human by mistake, nearly forgets what she really is, falls in love with a prince, and is content to live her happily ever after with him. However, there are monsters to face, and the rest of the unicorns to find. And unfortunately, our unicorn cannot stay a woman forever. But once she is turned back into a unicorn, she flees in the face of the Red Bull, the monster who has kept her people captive for many years. This beast has terrified her over the course of her journey, and in her fear, she nearly allows it to drive her into the sea with the rest of the unicorns. And then her prince steps in to save her, and is subsequently trampled. And once she looks behind her and realizes what has happened, she stops, and she screams, as only a unicorn can scream. And she turns around, and she faces the Red Bull. I'm already getting kind of teary-eyed thinking about it, if I'm honest. I'm sorry. It's just such a beautiful moment, because even once she's a unicorn again, she still remembers him. She still remembers what she felt when she was a human, when she was with him. And she's not supposed to feel these feelings because she's technically an immortal creature. But she does feel these feelings because she's lived as a human for a little bit. And that part of her is still alive within her. And because of that, her love for the prince is still alive within her. And even though they can never be, her love becomes greater than her fear. And she finds the courage to instead drive the Red Bull into the sea, thus freeing the rest of the unicorns. There's more to it than that, but I'll let you read the book or watch the movie at least. But The Last Unicorn is definitely an unexpected treasure when it comes to stories with a romantic twist. I'd greatly recommend both the movie or the book. They are equally beautiful. So, have I missed any significant romantic moments? Please share them in the comments below. For more on stories and storytelling, you can visit nocturnalmind.net. You can also follow Nocturnal Mind on Facebook and Instagram through the links provided below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.